In this project we're going to make a duck, and here is the duck that we're going to base it on. And you can see that we're going to need a few different techniques because we have a hollow sphere and a hollow tube. We then have half a sphere at the top to make the head, and we have slabs on the feet. So we're using spherical techniques, slab techniques in different places, and then adding clay on and thinking about how we glue it and make it nice and sturdy. So this is the project for which you're going to need quite a bit of clay. So in this pile here I have pieces of clay that I've already prepared so that I can then work on the project all in one go without having to stop and create slabs or spheres and other things. We're going to begin by attaching the neck of the duck to the body. Now the duck body is going to sit at this angle, so it's going to be like that. So I'm just going to tap the base of it so that it will just flatten, because that's the part that I'll be attaching to the feet. And then you can see, hopefully you can see, it's just going to sit like that. It's always a little bit difficult with three-dimensional projects. And then the neck of the duck is going to come out just about here. So if I just use my bamboo stick or something that I've got to hand, a lollipop stick, and I lightly mark on my clay so that you can see the neck is going to sit about there. So I'm just going to move that to one side for a moment, and I'm going to take my slab that I prepared earlier, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my bamboo stick, and I'm just going to give this a wipe because I've used this for a few projects recently and it's a little bit covered in clay at the end. Will work much better if it's nice and clean. And I'm going to lightly score whereabouts I think. Now, because obviously I just want a tube, so I'm going to take this edge off and this edge off, and then I'm going to use my tongue depressor, these are called, and I'm just going to cut through where I've marked. I'm going to put that to one side because I can use that for details, and take that one off. I'm not going to put it all round into one tube. I'm going to put my finger in the middle, and I'm just going to start to work that around my finger bit by bit. Now I'm having to be careful because I don't want it to crack, so you must take your time. If you try and work the clay really quickly, it will crack on this side. It's already beginning to go very slightly, so I'm adding some slip, which is just water with a little bit of clay in it. Here's my slip pot, and I'm just adding a little bit of that because that will fill the tiny cracks and prevent major cracks from forming. I'm just going to bring them to about there, but for the moment I don't need to bring it any further, and I want the open edge to be on this side, so I'm going to look to put my neck about there. That's where I want it to be. Now it won't stick on like that. If I let go, it's very slowly going to slide off because my clay is quite wet and quite sticky, although not too soft. You can't work with clay that is too soft, so don't over wet it. If it becomes slimy, that will be a problem for you. What I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to add some clay around it, and this is where this bit comes in, this offcut, to blend it in, and that will hold it tight. But I'm also going to need to score and glue. So we call slip glue, it's called clay glue, and in order to get things to stick, we score the surface that we want them to stick to, not deeply, just backwards and forwards to rough it up. We add slip. You can either add the slip and score. It's probably the best way actually to add slip and score, because you can see I've now lost my scoring a bit, but it quickly comes back. And I'm also going to do the same to this edge, which is the one that I'm going to use to join. Now we don't want too much slip on, and it will literally just slip off. So but there we go, not enough slip and it won't glue. And it's really, really important, as you can imagine, that this glues. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this coil, which at the moment is a little bit too thick. Yeah, that will stand up. It's not going to fall off, at least it's not in the short term. Well, if I leave it there too long. And just ease that out. I'm going to bring it round, and then I'm going to push up and down and join the neck to the body. I've left it open like this, and that's so that I can push some clay up on the inside as well, and I can push that clay up just to strengthen the base. Now it is harder to work in, but it is just as important. I'm also going to start bringing this round at the base to bring it together. So to join the neck together, I'm just going to put some clay in between. And hopefully you can see how this is all coming together, body and neck. And here, I don't really need any more clay. I ought to just, because I do want it to narrow slightly anyway, I ought to be able to just join it as it is. All right, so now we've got a body and a neck. So we're getting there. So here is my hemisphere, and it's going to sit on top of the neck. Let me tilt this so that you can see, like that, and then we're going to build it up. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze this up and narrow it a little at the top as best I can. And I'm just going to push that over. I'm going to flatten out this edge. I'm going to glue and score, flatten it down a little, the top of the head. Now, I know the head is larger, it's meant to be, don't worry. So it will only stick to part of it, but then we're going to sculpt with it and you'll see what happens. Oop. There we go. And that way around. Now you'll notice that I've pushed my hemisphere so that it is more of an oblong in shape. And of course what I need now is I need a small coil to join them. So now I have this shape. Oh, let's turn it around so that you can see. So that's my full shape, and I can still feel, I'm going to have to work on that slightly, but what I want to start to do is pull out this section of the head. I'm going to add some clay to this part, and this is quite soft, so I haven't worried about scoring it because the clay is so soft and malleable. If you find yours is drying out, then you may need to score and glue. And what I'm doing here is, you can see I'm beginning to create the shape of the beak. I'm also underneath beginning to join up, and I quite like the shape, so I'm going to go with that. So what I've done is I've flattened it here because they have a flat beak there, and then I've created a round bit at the end, but I need to make sure, because I used multiple bits of clay, that will work. Now you may find that it helps to stand back from your sculpture to have a look at it. That I always find that definitely helps me, but that is a much more even head now. I can see from the top more even. So what we need to do now is we need to work on this part of the duck. So we need to work on the back and the tail. So if I bring my smaller model in that I made previously, and this seems to be leaning a bit, let's move him back a bit, and I'm going to bring the sides out, and I'm going to create a tail. So for this I'm going to need my other bit of clay, and because we're sculpting, I might need a bit more actually. Then all I'm going to do literally is I'm going to be sticking this on here, and you can see how I'm going to sculpt that in. But of course first I want to glue and score. Alright, now because I want my duck to be a little bit cheeky, I'm going to push the tail, which is what I've done there. Push it so that it comes out at a bit of an angle, and then it's like my duck's got a little bit cheeky and it's having a bit of a waddle, and it's just a fun thing to do with the tail, just to bring in. You can choose which side you want that to go at, or you can just have yours straight on, and I'm going to tilt it up a bit as well, and that actually helps to balance my duck too when it's tilted up a little bit, so that the whole thing is well balanced.